Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Colleen Shumaker of Finding the Fantastic. Colleen, it's awesome to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here.
No problem. Super excited to have you on. And what I want to do is just read a little bit more about Colleen so you can hear about all the awesome things that she's doing and finding the fantastic between the hustle of surviving life and achieving it. Colleen Dee Tiberius Shumaker is real and authentic. While with a twist of learning disabilities, she calls her superpowers. Her goal is to show people they are not alone in their struggles and they matter. She is able to do this through her podcast called Finding the Fantastic, where she sheds light on everyday stereotypes and the troubles that those bring to help galvanize and motivate people's individuality. Colleen, are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
I'm so ready.
Awesome. Let's do it. So the first question I had was to hear a little bit more about what I call your CEO story and what led you to start your business.
Oh my goodness. I think it's funny because my CEO story is one that I don't even know yet. It wasn't even written out. It's one of those things where all of a sudden I just started a business that I had no idea I was going to start one. I had this idea where I really needed to find a way to see what it was that I was supposed to do with my life. Because I didn't know what I was supposed to do with my life. I'm like, all right, well, you're supposed to get a job, do the career thing. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So I started making videos and trying to find something fantastic in life. And I didn't want to be like this motivational speaker. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If I heard a motivational speaker tell me to wake up and meditate one more time, I was going to lose it. I mean, there's a time and a place for the meditation, but not for me. But so I start finding the fantastic, thinking it's just going to be this fun social media thing. And all of a sudden I'm taking out an LLC. I get myself a federal tax ID.
Nice.
And I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this. And I turn into this entrepreneur who is running a business. And to this day, people are like, oh man, what's your business? And I'm like, it's a great question. Well, it's Finding the Fantastic, but yeah, that's my story. It's the story of this. It happened. And I never thought it would happen, but I'm super stoked because I definitely know I have a spirit to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. And you definitely have the energy as well, which you definitely need. But it's
Thanks.
funny. You're welcome. It's funny that you say that because a lot of times, when you hear people's stories, you think kind of like a beautiful mind where they have all these things written out and exactly this is going to go there, this is going to happen here. But a lot of times it just kind of manifests itself into that, it sounds like.
Oh, totally. And that's the crazy part about it. Is it just all of a sudden just became a business. I was like, nah, I'm not smart enough to run a business. I mean, I have the learning disabilities, I don't know enough about finances and math and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing you know, I've got this thing that's a business.
Exactly. You have an LLC.
I know, it's real. I paid for that LLC.
Exactly. All right. So I wanted to drill down a little bit to hear a little bit more about your business, your LLC, and then your podcast. So tell us a little bit more about what you do to help support the clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So really, I mean, I'm just going to be 100% transparent. I started it for myself. Going back to what I said, as my biggest fear is being pointless, and I'm very honest about it. And my biggest fear is being pointless because I can't quite figure out what it is I'm supposed to do with my life. Every day people are like, all right, well, once you graduate high school or college, it's figure your career out, and what your industry and career is, that's what you're identified as. That is you as a person. And I didn't like that at all because one, I couldn't figure out what that career was. And two, it made me feel hollow. So I started Finding the Fantastic because I know that there is more to this thing called life than the stereotypical get a job in the industry and that's how you identify yourself. I think in this world of beautiful people who are full of different creatives, different diversities, different expressions, I really think we can change our lifestyle based on just believing that and finding a way to express ourselves. And so that was for me trying to figure out, it turns out there's a lot of people who were like, yeah, I can get on with this. And, from the social media and the website, videos and shows, it turned into a podcast that I was like, really? I actually quit the podcast. I started it and I quit for a month because I'm like, this is a joke. This is ridiculous. Nobody wants to listen to me and the things I'm saying. But then a good friend of mine was like, no, you need to get back on that. So right. I did. And every time I get a message from somebody who says, I really I really appreciate what I heard you saying because it made me feel validated. Sometimes I bring up things that I've never been through personally, just
Mhm.
because a viewer or listener will message me and say, "Hey, can you talk about this?" And it's not so much I'm trying to solve any problems. I don't. I'm not a therapist. Okay, I'm not an expert.
Mhm.
But for the people who are with me on this thing of trying to find something fantastic, I think it's the fact that somebody is saying out loud something they are feeling and it validates them. So
Mhm.
that's really the goal of finding the fantastic. Now, along with that, we've got merchandise and things like that, the typical business type stuff. But at the heart of it, it's really proving to people that their self-expression and diversity and creativity is what matters in this world, not their specific industry.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And it's funny that you mentioned that because a lot of it's like when you start scratching your own itch, so to speak, and you start creating something for yourself, and then you start
Uh-huh.
telling your story, say, oh, nobody wants to hear this, but this is what I'm interested in. And then all of a sudden, this person is interested, then that person's interested. And then
Yep.
when you try to scale it back, they say, no, you need to keep doing it because you're helping me tell my story as well, too. You're giving other people power and motivation to live their lives and find
Yep.
their, best selves.
It's so true. It's so true. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I know you might have touched on it a little bit, but what would you consider like your secret sauce for yourself or your organization? What do you feel is kind of sets you apart?
Oh, the secret sauce.
Secret
I love
sauce.
that phrase, by the way, because it's so true. The secret sauce. It's funny. Somebody actually asked me this question like 3 weeks ago. And honestly, I think the secret sauce is my understanding that point one, people matter. In my short 31 years of life, I've never met somebody who did not matter. That's the bottom line of it. And I believe that. And then the thing that goes on top of the sauce, the extra, ingredient in there is that I continually push the limit on the stereotype. If somebody approaches me with an idea, I look at the idea and I say, okay, sounds great, sounds a little too cliche, sounds a little too buttered up. Let's strip it all of what it is and figure out the authentic, transparent thing that it is. Let's break the stereotype because, like, I don't know. One of the things I tried to do so many times is like, I'll have people talk about things and it's very cliche. It's like they can't get past, what society has taught them to think and feel,
Mhm.
which I get. It's hard. But like the second I'm like, no, dude, why don't you just be real about it? Why don't you just tell me the emotion you're feeling right now? They're like,
Right.
really? I'm like, for real, do it. That's my secret sauce. That
Right.
right there.
Yeah, well, I absolutely love that because there's so many people that aren't doing that. That a lot of times you have that button up, or I don't want to say like maybe the robotic answer to a lot of the questions that you have where you don't really drill down and fill out and answer that authentic question because a lot of people don't really want to hear that, but the fact that you actually give the time and energy to actually hearing people's really authentic answers and understanding if they're not telling that
Yeah.
definitely is a huge thing because everybody needs that.
Everybody. And I think authentic is really overused these days, or it's
Mhm.
not overused, but it's not used to its truest potential. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
when and I think in regards to like running a business type thing in a company, yeah, I'm small and I've just started out and it's not even a year in. The beautiful thing about me is there's been a couple times where I've been caught up in the stereotype of I've had people be like, you should look for investors, you should do this to make money, you should do that to make money. Then I thought about it. They baited the hook, and I'm like, ooh, shiny, shiny. And then
Yeah.
I stopped, and I'm like, no, Colleen, that's not why you started this. That's not why you're doing this. That's not how your company, Find the Fantastic, is going to make the biggest impact. I'm out there to make a lifestyle cultural change. I
Nice.
don't want to just do it to make a buck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. When you're that mission driven, everything else falls in line.
It's true. I mean, money is nice. It helps pay the bills, pay for the
It does.
Netflix, pay for the fries.
Exactly. Keep the lights on, which is very important as well, too.
Exactly.
Well, awesome. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit and ask you for what I call a CEO hack. And this might be an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but it's something that you feel like makes you more effective and efficient.
Oh, effective and efficient.
Hmm.
Okay. So for me, one of the things I'm always doing is collecting content. And I hate the word content because it's really I just collect moments in my life or I collect moments in other people's lives. I
Hmm.
am not ashamed to get uh video footage of anything I'm doing at all.
Right.
And when I do that, it helps me be really efficient. I'm not sitting down going, oh, what kind of content should I collect? Or what should the topic be for the next month? It's just there. People ask me all the time, like, how do you come up with all this content? I'm like, dude, it's my life.
Right.
And I'm not ashamed to collect it. And I'm not ashamed to say, that is quality. And that right there is super efficient way. And FYI, for everybody listening, you don't need fancy equipment to do it. I get most of my content from my Instagram story.
Mm-hmm.
And I save it and I go back and I reuse it. Okay. You don't need all this fancy stuff.
Yeah, well, I love that too, because I think Gary Vee says it a lot about documenting. So a lot of times if you're a lot of people don't realize, like, going through your life, especially if you're running a business, you're starting a podcast, whatever it is, a lot of people aspire to do that. So sometimes when you're telling your story, you're going through life and you're documenting it in video, through Instagram stories, whatever, that in and of itself is content that people crave and want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's efficient. Like I said, so many people sit down and they're like, oh, I'm going to sit down and write out all my content for the next 6 months. And I'm like, how in the world are you going to do that?
Right. Exactly. So now I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO nugget. And this is a word of wisdom or piece of advice, or if you can hop into a time machine, what would you tell your younger business self?
Oh my goodness. My younger self, for sure, I would tell myself, Colleen Dee Tiberius Shumaker, you are not as stupid as you think you are. So it took me 25 years to admit out loud that I had learning disabilities. And then it took me 28 years to say that my learning disabilities were not a disability. In fact, they were a superpower. And when I was younger, it stopped me from doing tons. It stopped me from doing so much. And I wish I could just go back and grab myself and say, dude, you're smart. You are so smart. And you're so, like, you have this ability to do stuff. Do not think you're that dumb. And like so many kids and adults, FYI, learning disabilities don't go away when you graduate from school. Okay. They're still there. A lot of people just think they're so stupid because of them. And the fact of the matter is you're not. It's a superpower.
Yeah, absolutely. Was it something that the switch just flipped and you saw that was a superpower, or was it something that someone said, or what went into that?
I think it was probably more of like a switch that got flipped, because it didn't matter. Like, my parents were awesome growing up. They were like, oh no, you're unique, you're smart, you're a genius. And I'm sitting there going, thanks mom, thanks pop, but that, you're never going to believe that when you have learning disabilities. Anybody who has a disability, it's hard to believe it because society and stereotypes just like keep you down. And I tell kids that I'm like, look, it's not going to get easier, but you're going to accept it better and you're going to love yourself more. And I think it was a switch of a flip of a switch of the flip. What? One of those two.
I'd make sure I said it right myself.
Right. I think it was just all of a sudden one day, maybe it was finding the fantastic that helped, because I think I was so involved in helping people realize how amazing they were and valuable they were, that one day I was like, wait a second, like, Colleen, stop and look at these disabilities and realize that this is a reason why you can come up with some of this stuff. Like, own it and love it, Colleen,
Yeah. And it kind of sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, sometimes in, whether they're learning disabilities or, things that we think that aren't talents or gifts or that we have, sometimes that's our greatest advantage, because a lot of times we look at them in one way because maybe we're so close to them, but other people can see them as really strong ability for us to kind of tell our stories or to connect with other people, or, be quote unquote authentic, whatever that is. But a lot of the time we can flip that into being a superpower, just like you did.
Absolutely. It gives the ability so let's say you're out there. Have you ever read the book Blue Ocean Strategies?
I've heard about it. I have not read it.
Oh, it's so good. So
Really?
I do audiobook just because, again, my learning disability. So I listened to it. It was phenomenal. And it's all about creating this blue ocean. When your area is saturated with so much competition, you need to create your own blue ocean. Well, I read it, and I think that was another key factor in helping me. And I realized that with my learning disabilities, because I view things so differently, I'm very, very easily can create myself a blue ocean strategy, because my entire life has been figuring out adapting to situations and coming up with creative ways to do it. So as a business, instead of trying to follow the stereotype of all the other saturated competition, why don't you stop, pull yourself back a little bit, and realize you don't have to do it the same way as everybody else. In fact, if you do it a different way, yes, maybe 5 people out of 1 million will judge you, but you're going to create yourself a blue ocean and like kill the competition.
Yeah, see, and that's right in line with what I was thinking. A lot of times, because somebody who's been doing it the right way their entire life, they don't know how to deviate from anything but that way. But you have been able to, to change and to shift and do whatever in whatever situation. So now when you have to do that from a business standpoint or starting your business, it's second nature. It doesn't even take much.
Yep, because I'm gonna tell you what, if there's one word I don't know how to spell growing up, I found like 20 other words that I could just insert that I knew how to spell.
Exactly. That's genius. I have a horrible memory, so I do the same thing.
Yep, exactly.
So awesome, awesome, awesome. And now I wanted to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show to look at entrepreneurship, business, and what exactly that means. So, Colleen, what does being a CEO mean to you?
It means being able to create a company that breaks boundaries and stereotypes, to lead a company to break boundaries or stereotypes of whether it be an industry or a new industry. It's not just making sure everything runs smoothly and correctly. To me, being a CEO and running a company is you're the person who sees outside the box and finds ways to set your company apart and take them to the next level. That would be it to me.
Awesome. I love that definition. It's right in line with what you said with blue ocean strategy.
Exactly.
So I love that definition. And Colleen, I truly appreciate your time. What I wanted to do is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional you want to let our readers and our listeners know. And then, of course, how can they subscribe to your podcast and get a hold of you?
Absolutely. And I always tell everybody this is, if you can do one thing starting today, I want you to find a way to express what you feel and who you are in small ways or large ways, because you need to start with yourself and find a way to express yourself, and then start expressing yourself to other people, because you matter and you'll break the stereotype. And if you start doing that, your life is going to be so much more fulfilled. You're not going to be so busy trying to be the expert and trying to be the best. You are going to be busy trying to be the best person that you are and expressing yourself. So go out and do that. That's how you find the fantastic. It's not that life's fantastic at all. You got to find it. So that would be my words of wisdom. And you can subscribe to the podcast. It's called Finding the Fantastic on any podcast app, iTunes, Stitcher, you name it. And then I'm heavy on Facebook and heavy on the gram, the Instagram. I'm all over that at Finding the Fantastic handle.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And we'll make sure to have those links in the show notes. And I definitely love the name, love everything that it stands for. And I appreciate you. Glad we found each other and we're able to have you on the podcast. And I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Thanks so much. Thank you. I appreciate being on.